afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us in this hot afternoon, post-lunch time slot. Joining the panel, one of the most exciting panels of this afternoon, charting the GCC's development into a world-class processing and manufacturing center. I am Igor Hulák, partner at Kearney, global management consulting firm, and the strategic insight partner of Future Mineral Forum. Today we gathered a panel of 4 very seasoned professionals, and let me introduce them to you. First, let me welcome Philip Lindop, Global Head of Mining at Barclays Investment Bank, with more than 20 years of investment banking experience, so money is represented. Let me also introduce Mark Ashwin, Principal Vice President and Metals and Mining General Manager for Europe, Africa and Middle East at Bechtel. Also, I would like to welcome the home resident, Engineer Mahmoud Al-Asmari, Director of Minerals and Metals at National Industrial Development Center, where he has been running his agenda for the past 14 years. And last but not least, also let me welcome Scott Taylor, founding partner of Taylor David Lawyers, with experience and expertise in private equity, M&A, international mining and resources, and debt restructuring. We are gathering in Riyadh today, which is in the heart of a very vibrant and dynamic GCC region. And I believe you would all agree with me that this conference has been yet another statement or evidence of that fact. The GCC countries, each of them have defined and is very busy implementing their enormous industrialization strategies to diversify from the dependency on oil. Let me play a little bit with you. Just close your eyes and transpose yourself into very near future. When you go to buy your new car, very likely, and being involved in some of these projects very intimately, nearly certainly one of the brands in the showroom will be manufactured here in the KSA. And it will be, very likely, electric battery vehicle. And the battery that will replace the engine in that car will be also manufactured here. The battery will be getting a power from the renewables energy that will be coming from the solar panels or the wind towers, very likely manufactured in the KSA as well. And as you drive, your navigation system will be talking to you, getting a signal from the commercial satellite manufactured in the outskirts of Riyadh. All of that is great to imagine, but all of that will, as we know, require a lot of minerals, and green minerals. Green is in demand, green is in fashion in all seasons. But all of us know that all of these projects are capital heavy, intensive, and long term. I haven't been able to join every panel in this conference, but those that I joined, each of them mentioned one word: capital. And we have who better than Philip with us. Philip, can you open up and tell us what is the opinion of the capital? What is the appetite of the capital to fund all of these projects?
Well, thank you very much, Igor, and if I could just echo your thanks to our hosts and the inspiring experience it has been for me anyway to actualize this incredible vision, the Vision 2030, but there's much more, as you have very articulately posited, there's much more to it than that. Look, I think as it relates to the capital opportunity, if I'm frank, in the mining space, in this cycle, that is probably the single biggest limiting factor for the development, for the market to be able to respond to the signals such as this that are being sent in terms of future demand. It's the access to capital. The public equity markets have very limited interest in the space. The public debt markets have always been variously interested, and the banks are under enormous pressure to comply with a range of complex and challenging requirements. So I think it's an obvious starting point, but the Kingdom brings to the equation, as we heard from the Honourable Minister of Finance yesterday, very long-term, very patient capital. And that is an enormous competitive advantage, which, based on the technical and complex planning that I've certainly seen and experienced this week, is not going to be squandered. So I would say that is, if you like, the relevant starting point. As it relates to capital being applied to projects, there is a long history in the mining space of capital being misallocated. And I think, again, the precision around which projects are going to be developed and for which purpose is incredibly important. What was inspiring to me about the earlier panel with the Manara Minerals team is they are very clear what metal they need and which year for which purpose. And again, I think that capital discipline, that the allocation of that capital with discipline is going to ensure that only the best projects get built. So, I think there was a comment on an earlier panel that the market is not responding to the demand that is being signaled. A statistic quoted a few times this week is more copper is needed between now and 2050 than has been mined in the last 120 years, by a multiple. And there is a similar statistic in iron ore and certainly in lithium and so on. And I suppose the challenge then is how to use this very valuable resource, which is ultimately the demand for the metal that is being created in this economy and in this super region, having just understood the scale of the super region. That creation of demand, I think, in of itself will de-risk and mobilize capital to ensure that the best projects are built in the requisite time frame.
Thank you. Thank you, Philip. I will come back to you with that appetite, because very recently, as we know, the capital has also appetite for ESG. But let's park that and let's come back to that. Mark, in your role, you have a great opportunity to see across 3 continents: Europe, yep. Middle East, and Africa. And the GCC countries obviously are part of your responsibility. GCC countries, I think it's fair to say, have not been seen as the traditional industrial investment destination. But the world is changing. Each country of GCC, including Saudi Arabia, are steadily climbing on all the top charts of the FDI year by year. How do you see it? What brings you and your company to GCC? Why do you see GCC as an interesting destination for investment?
Yeah, Igor, thank you for that, and appreciate it. And I think we talk to lots of customers across the globe. So we have a global mining business. I focus on Europe, Africa, Middle East. But it's about choices, and I think our customers have choices to make about where they want to take their projects, invest their money. And I think the GCC has got lots of advantages, and I think as they weigh the positives and negatives up, then I think you'll begin to see that center of gravity shifting from more traditional markets where there's a lot of commodity in the ground. So if you look at Australia or Africa, they're endowed with fantastic resource bodies. And so that drew mining activity to those because it was starting at the hub. But they all have their challenges. And so I think as you see the GCC, it's got really accessible power. So I think it's at a great price. And so that helps if you've got a power-intensive industry, then you gravitate to that. I think also we're seeing that there's a segment of renewable power in that as well, because a lot of our customers need to be sustainable, they need sustainable products, and so that renewable power, so the UAE is 40% renewable power right now, and so that's a big pull. And so there's that power availability. Then I think there's the policy and security, so the government policy. So I think the Middle East government policies is helping attract people in. They're very business friendly. And I think that, when you compare to some of the issues that are going on around the world, I know Middle East has always had its challenge with security, but I think it's becoming one of the more comfortable places for people to be. And so I think that's a great thing too. So you've got that security side. And then I think you've got the ESG impact. So we tend to call it the social license to operate. So, a mining company or a manufacturing company has got to have the hearts and minds of the people around it, the country, to actually people to support and embrace you bringing a project to their country. And there are some resistance. In Australia and America, there's some fantastic opportunities, but the local pressures are stopping those projects from going ahead. And I think you'll find the GCC, as it's a developing nation, there's an eager appetite to support projects. So I think that's going to help with the growth of projects. And then you've got the final piece, which is what we've heard a bit about, is the growing mineral resource body in Saudi Arabia, being that draw to bring in industry in. It's gone up 30% from the last time it was checked a year ago. So that's a fantastic growth. If you listen to Bob Wilt, it's going to grow even faster as they do more exploration. So I think that resource body being here will be that center of gravity to pull in things together. So I think those things combined will help with the factors. And I think that the final thing then is it's okay being an extractor of minerals and a processing of that mineral into some product. But I think the real value chain comes in the next step, which is the manufacturing process. So you go from semi-manufactured products to fully manufactured products, and that value chain, because you get the higher value. We're beginning to see that in Saudi Arabia. We see it in the UAE. They go from bauxite mine to alumina refinery to aluminium smelter to rolling plant to car manufacturing to aeroplane manufacturing. And I think that value chain is coming, and that's key to making it very attractive. Africa, unfortunately, a lot of the mineral resources are mined and exported and manufactured elsewhere. So I think that's why the GCC is going to be in a great place.
Thank you. Allow me to zoom into the KSA now. We are sitting in Riyadh, in the heart of GCC, and probably the most dynamic place to be in, not only in the GCC, but probably worldwide. And as I said in my opening remarks, when you sit here, it feels like being in the capital of the future mineral and mining of the planet Earth. We have Mahmoud joining us, and Mahmoud, I know how much you have been involved in the industrialization of the country and in the industrialization plans, and you are at the beginning, you are upstream, I know how much under positive pressure you are to ensure that there are the minerals needed for the industrialization. So how do you see it? Where do you see the enormous potential for KSA and for the investors coming and actually making it the center of the processing in the GCC?
Thank you, Igor, for having us today. I think it's my pleasure to be here with the panelists. Of course, for focusing on Saudi Arabia, I think I will give insights on the demand-related opportunities, in addition to the challenges that we would like to face and avoid. So, from that aspect, we have in Saudi many aspirations, and we are targeting the opportunities from many dimensions. One of them related to more of the demand-related products of the construction and infrastructure, in addition to the industrialization revolution that we are working on today in Saudi with the targets that we have. Some examples of that related to the steel, aluminum, and other value chains that we already have and we are expanding today. Additionally, I think we have another dimension related to the supply push that we have in Saudi today from the abundant resources that we have in Saudi that for need for the export market. Of course, one of the examples related to the phosphate value chains that we have, and we are exporting for the food security for the global market. Additionally, I think we are planning today to be positioning as a recognized player globally on the critical and strategic targets on the mineral processing as a mineral hub in the super region that called yesterday by His Royal Highness. I think I will insight on some examples related to the targets, in addition to the opportunities related on new ones and the expandable ones. One of them related to Saudi Aramco, which is the largest global oil manufacturer, and we are today targeting to have more than 50% of its demand products to be localized. This will generate a lot of opportunities related to the expanding on our capabilities, in addition to the new products in the market on the metallic and non-metallic product that we are looking for. Additionally, I think we are having a lot of construction and infrastructure, of course, in the region here. In the country, we have Qiddiya, Neom, Red Sea, a lot of announcement that we have in 2023, which is related to Expo 2030, World Cup 2034, and Murabba and other related BIF projects. That will open window for a lot of opportunities for the building materials and new building technologies that we are looking for localized in Saudi Arabia. Some of them exist and will be expanded, and some of them we would like to have in country as soon that available. Some example of that, of course, related to the steel, rebar, extrusion of aluminum, in addition to the ceramics and dimension tools that we are developing in the country, and we are integrating with the region here. Also for the energy transition, country today are planning and targeting to develop renewable related projects to have more than 50% of power generation in Saudi to be from the renewable related products. This, of course, will open window for the silicon metal value chain from quartz till the polysilicon and panel solar. So this is, I think, excellent opportunity also for the copper value chains that we have some announcement today about the copper smelter, and I think we are able to make a lot of resources available for that cathode material in Kingdom. Additionally, I think just to add with the EVs related, which is we are developing today, I think we are in planning for 500, and I think maybe it will be doubled of the car of numbers. A number of car manufactured will be in Saudi. Of course, this will be related to the critical minerals that will be in need for the region, and we will be able to be the processing hub for that type of minerals, critical and strategic ones, such as the lithium, nickel, cobalt, and manganese, and graphite. So those are opportunities. Of course, there will be challenges, but I think with the capabilities that we have and success that we made previously on the processing that we have, we will be able to enable it and have it here in the region and the country.
Thank you, Mahmoud. Scott, to round up the first cycle of the questions, I think you are the shining example of who actually tried that attractiveness of the region and attractiveness of the KSA with your project that you developed. And again, I open up with some imagination how the electric vehicles actually are already manufactured here and will be manufactured here and will have the battery also manufactured here. You are very centric to the lithium projects here, and you had a very recent experience of actually developing the joint venture here in Saudi Arabia. How it feels from the recent experience for you as an investor, as someone who represents the investors, to make the project that is very centric to the green metals, to the processing here in the region?
No, thank you, Igor. So there are two Australian companies, EV Metals Group and European Lithium Group, who have entered into agreements to build the Middle East's first hydroxide plants, lithium hydroxide plants. So between Australia and Saudi, these are two of the most commercially significant agreements entered into. So I've personally worked on the joint venture between the Oberkan Investment Group and European Lithium since its inception. The MOU for that joint venture was actually signed at this very conference 12 months ago, and it went binding in June of last year. So for this project, European Lithium, which is an Australian listed entity, it owns a lithium mine in Wolfsburg in Austria. The spodumene from that mine will be transported down to Saudi Arabia under an exclusive offtake, and from there the JV has the ability to service the GCC region and beyond with lithium hydroxide supply. There is also an existing offtake agreement with BMW for the hydroxide produced. So operations for that particular plant are intended to commence in 2026, And whilst I understand that may seem somewhat ambitious, it does integrate perfectly with the ability to supply hydroxide to the developing EV industry within the GCC. So beyond those projects, I'm actually joined here in Riyadh by a number of other Australian companies who have developed various technology, whether it be in hydrogen or iron ore, low carbon, more efficient technologies, but they all want to develop in the kingdom. They all want to progress in the kingdom. And I suppose what I'd like to go through is what the attraction is for these companies and why they're choosing Saudi Arabia. So beyond having incredibly welcoming and friendly people, the lower energy cost is of significant importance. I mean, it significantly reduces the operational expense, and in some cases, it's a tenth of the cost of what it is in other parts of the world. There is a very stable, sovereign and political environment. Saudi is no one's enemy, everyone's friend. So this significantly de-risks the potential geopolitical issues and potential trade wars. The availability of government financial support to develop and the general access to private capital, it's something that's simply not as easily accessible in most other parts of the world. This region is also quite well geographically centrally positioned. I mean, it's a perfect hub in particular for supply from mineral-rich Asia Pacific to downstream supply for the Middle East and Europe. Upstream potential of an ambitious local mineral exploration also provides a very positive outlook on future resource availability. And many companies simply wish to just be a part of the opportunity transforming the kingdom as it works and strives towards this Vision 2030. So the kingdom's in a very unique position where it's got a blank canvas ultimately to develop supply chains. It's not wedded to any traditional processing models that other more established countries have adopted. And it's got the ability to incorporate the latest technology, utilising the most efficient methods from the ground up, effectively redefining the global industry. The GCC countries should also learn from mistakes of other countries. So Australia, for example, is the largest exporter of iron ore in the world. Our economy is largely dependent upon it. Most of this iron ore is sent to China for processing. Then Australia buys its steel back from China. So there's a kink in the chain there. And due to life of mine offtakes, life of mine commitments for offtakes with China, it's too late in many regards to remedy a number of these issues. So collaboration amongst GCC countries to pool resources and skills to strengthen its developing supply chains will overcome the issues that we've seen elsewhere. So it does really, if that can be effected, it will provide the ability for end-to-end value. In terms of the practical challenges associated with developing these supply chain hubs, it's effectively the skills shortage and the skills experience that's lacking within this region. But these, in my view, are challenges that Saudi is and will continue to overcome by its willingness to attract and partner with foreign investment.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a great example of how to turn to talk, to walk, or to action your project. And some of these challenges that you had encountered, maybe Mahmoud, would you like to share any views how you are seeing them from the other side, from the government point of view, or those who are attracting the investors, and what recipes you are offering to address them?
Thank you, Igor. I think this is will be one of the achievements that we will have soon in Saudi, because I think we are working with the companies closely on enabling that type of businesses related to the critical minerals that global is need for. So we are working with many of those in parallel companies to have the right achievement for the need of global today on the critical related and strategic ones. Lithium is a good example, and I think we are planning to have the nickel and cobalt and manganese also in ground, because I think we have excellent capabilities and infrastructure that will give the go for the companies to be in the ground as soon as possible, to have them integrated and have the mineral processing hubs here in the country to serve the super region and the global market with that type of products with the right competitive prices.
Yeah. No, thank you. Thank you. Allow me to fast reverse to the beginning and go back to where we started, and to one of the most important things, which is money, capital. And this panel is about the processing of green metals. And as I said, green is in demand, green is in fashion in all seasons. The money is also interested more and more about green aspects of the projects, about the social and environmental aspects of the projects. So how, maybe Philip, if you can tell us the view from the banker side on the ESG. It's impossible to talk about developing the processing and manufacturing hub without taking into account ESG.
Thank you. Evidently, this material is required to decarbonize the energy system. Evidently, this material has to be extracted and processed in order to achieve that. But I think the challenge that many public mining companies face is the perception of the industry is not very good. Now that there's, let's say, more purpose to the ultimate utility of their product, I think there is an enormous burden on the entire mining industry to tell that story, and to tell that story in a positive and a confident way. I think there's a lot of focus on carbon in all these discussions, but actually in mining, the social and some of the other related environmental issues, in some cases, are much more important. And sadly, in the last few weeks, we've seen in other parts of the world communities completely rejecting the mining industry, which to many of us in a booming economy like the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia would find difficult to reconcile. And so, what I've heard this week is, as this nation brings a clean sheet of paper to in a sense, a new industry, not that it's a new industry, of course, in Saudi Arabia, but is the idea that there is going to be a balanced partnership and that the values and the principles of the kingdom are going to be applied to the choice of the partner and how collectively that work gets done. And I think that's, to my mind, the very simple answer here. If there's an extractive or an unbalanced relationship between partners, between local communities and an operation, between countries, well, those of course are not sustainable. And I think in mining in particular, that is the axis of sustainability. As broader focus moves from carbon to nature, we're certainly seeing a lot of interest in terms of disclosure and in terms of regulations coming to nature alongside the work that's been done on carbon. But again, I think in the normal course, responsible operators will treat their footprint carefully, and I'm sure that ultimately when these products that we've been talking about, that you've been visualizing for us, are sold to consumers, consumers will want to know that there's integrity to the material that is contained in the product that they're buying. So in the end, I think there's balance, there's equilibrium, there's a natural alignment of interests, and it's important to get these things right from the very start.
Thank you. Thank you. Any addition from your real project, how you dealt with ESG aspects of...
ESG is obviously very important for anything. If we're to look at the upstream, midstream and downstream, end users want to know that ESG, it's important for consumers these days. So it's certainly something that is being implemented and is of very high importance to these projects that we're undertaking.
Yep. Very good. Let me also, because the title of this panel is GCC, yeah? And we touched upon the enormously ambitious industrialization plans of each GCC country. We are talking in this conference about the super region. The GCC is a mini super region of the super region. Maybe Mark, from your position, how do you see, do the countries within the GCC really collaborate? or is there yet to be something done in that aspect?
I think we're seeing a definite improvement. So we're working on a project in Bahrain, and the gas supply is one of the critical things that's going to potentially impact that project. And then there looks like now there's a causeway that's going to link Bahrain to Qatar. And if you get a causeway, there's no reason why you can't have a gas pipeline. So all of a sudden, that interrelationship, and I know the Qatar-Bahraini relationships goes back to 1560 or something in terms of the challenges it's faced. So it's a long history, but we're beginning to see some of those things change. And so I think it's been, I think the last 5-year transformation in Saudi, being that facilitator of collaboration within the GCC region has helped enormously, and so I think that we're going to see that change. So I think, between Oman's, Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Saudi, Qatar, I think you're going to see that cementation of cooperation, and I think that will then lead to much better prospects and projects. So,
okay. Any addition, Mahmoud?
Yeah, thank you. I think what is the super region related? I think for GCC countries, we have a good success stories, I think, such as the aluminium mentioned here about the capabilities that we built in the region. I think we are about 8 to 9% today of the global supply of the aluminium. So also, I think we have excellent capabilities on the phosphate. I think we are integrating and supplying about 8 to 10% of the phosphate related to the global market. So this success stories, I think, will help on having this nation integrated and having them work together on achieving what is the global's need.
Thank you. I'm getting signal that we have last 2 or 3 minutes. So I started with playing a little bit of imagination. So let's finish off the panel with the same. So if you had a magic wand that can turn talk into action, what would you use it for? Can we start with you, Philip?
With pleasure. I'm going to quote Amos Hochstein from yesterday's speech, the advisor to President Biden, which is, let's believe in the ingenuity and the creativity of human beings. And there is no better or greater example than I can think of than what has already been achieved under Vision 2030. And I'm sure there'll be many technological innovations that come with it.
Mark?
I think it's that no one country puts its own goals above the collaboration. And I think that's what's going to make the hub and the region go a lot further. I know that's it's almost like world peace, but just in a bit smaller.
Okay. Mahmoud?
Yeah, just to, I think, add of the integration related, we may have integrate on the related, advantages that they have, every nation that have its advantage that can be captured with the other ones. I think we have the excellent capital here in the country and infrastructure for the economic zones and industrial cities. And we can integrate, I think, on that with the resources and with the final products and having the right technologies that I think give the ESG targets implemented.
Thank you. Scott?
Collaboration is key. The GCC countries will always be stronger together. And beyond that, I suppose just embracing the ambition of the region, I think is incredibly important.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being with us, joining this exciting discussion and panel. I think if I can summarize, money matters still and probably will. The way how the money is spent is more and more important. We also heard that collaboration is in the center. I think the sentiment is changing. The paradigm, the legacy paradigm that the GCC is not the first choice of the destination for the investment for the industry is gradually changing, and the investors are coming. And Scott just is a shining example of one of the latest examples in the green metals. Thank you very much. Thank you all to our panelists. Hopefully you enjoyed this insightful discussion, ladies and gentlemen.